Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Philip. Um, just making a video. Uh, Nobody really to talk to and let things out. Um, I guess we can start from the beginning, right? Grew up to a mother and father in the city of Salida, California. And I was ran over by a car when I was 3. Well, not a car, a Jeep. I don't remember any of it. I just remember what my parents tell me. I don't remember the kind of child I was before or immediately after. All I know is my head was split open into 3. I got the scars to prove it, but I got this mop on my head. I gotta go get cut probably in a couple days. Mom and father, well, my father, according to my mom, was heavily into drugs along with his younger siblings. Before I was born and after I was born, apparently, he continued into drugs, not just doing them, but selling drugs while working, and being a functioning father. No, being a functioning drug addict while working and being a father and just partying and having a good life, I guess. Somewhere around 4 or 5, a year or 2 after I was ran over, apparently my father was robbed by somebody because my dad was a known drug dealer. Apparently they knocked on the door, came in and put guns to mine and my sister's heads and took my dad for everything he had. Not too long after that, apparently my mom lost it. According to my mom, my dad broke every bone in her body except her right leg. And I believed that until I was a teen. Well, an adult teen. Again, my YouTube channel was changed to the front seat because, as you can tell, that's where I'm doing this from. Been staying in my car for almost a little over 2 weeks now. It's not going bad, but it's not going great on unemployment and looking for work. Back to the story. My mom and dad kind of fell out. My dad was verbally abusive. I believe that. Physically abusive, probably a few times to my mom. And I guess the last straw for those two, my mother and father, was when my dad broke her nose. According to my mom, again, who basically lied to me my entire adult life about a lot of shit. Not everything, just a lot. According to my mom, my dad broke her nose, and I picked up a crystal ashtray and threw it at him and knocked him out. And my mom went and tied him to the bed, packed our stuff, and we moved in with somehow my mom's new boyfriend, Dwayne, who was 16 or 17. My mom's 30, 31, somewhere around there. And yeah, basically a pedophile. My mom was always a stay-at-home mother. Never worked, but she always took care of the house, cooked, cleaned. She got with this younger guy, stayed with this younger guy who did nothing but want to party and sleep with my mom, which is, that's adult shit, whatever. And this dude just did not want to get a job. And once he was kind of, I guess, getting tired of partying or always being broke or living like a scumbag, actually tried to go out and get jobs, but dude was fucking lazy or didn't want to have a boss, but he wanted to work, I guess. I don't know what it was. But for like 5, 6, 7 years, constantly went through that. He got my mom into drugs really bad. Apparently my mom was only a weed smoker before they met. And once she left my dad, she got into cocaine. Because her boyfriend was into that. We'll call him D. Got basically my mom into cocaine, and they moved from cocaine to methamphetamines years down the road. I found the crack pipe in their Suburban, and my mom said, "Don't touch that, put it away." Smacked me. That was why, I think that was when we were living in Escalon. One of the first houses my mom and her boyfriend got that I can remember. Yeah. From the age of 5 till like 8 or 9, maybe 7 or 8, we lived with Dee's mom and her Hell's Angel involved biker boyfriend, which is another reason why they got into drugs pretty well. Sometime when I was 7, maybe, we got a place in Escalon, small little shitty house. It was right on the corner of a lot of a trailer park. So you had an entire trailer park, and at the entrance you had a house right on the corner. I guess it used to be a little restaurant. I mean little. Eventually it got turned into a house. We moved into there, and sometime down the road, Dee's brother, call him A, came to stay with us, and eventually me and my sister got taken away by Child Protective Services, and we got put into like, I don't know if it's an orphanage or what, but eventually we were put in there and taken away from my mom and her boyfriend, because apparently Dee's brother, A, was looking through the, I guess, drilled a hole and was looking into the shower at my sister or me or both of us when we were young. And my sister told my mom's best friend and my dad's new wife about it, and they called Child Protective Services, and they took us away. And that was probably one of the worst experiences, because even before then I was a dirty kid, because they paid rent and some of the utilities if they could, but washing clothes and all that wasn't a need. We had I'm not saying my skin was dirty, because we had the showers, obviously. But my clothes were always dirty. I was a dirty kid growing up until I was probably about the age of 11 or 12. Probably stunk too. Um, I didn't have a care in the world back then, really, until we moved out of Escalon. I think I was in Child Protective Services for about 6, 7, 8 months, and I didn't want to. My dad was gonna try to get me out, or my aunt Sandra, who passed away, rest in peace, Auntie. My aunt Sandra married a wonderful guy named Adrian. He did everything he could to take care of her, but Sandra always found a way to fuck things up. Her kids grew up, well, two of her kids felt like she was the worst mother ever, even though those kids were never homeless or nothing like that. Was, they had a good life. Adrian took care of my three cousins. They were all boys. But their mom she abandoned them, but didn't abandon them like on the streets or with someone else. She just basically wanted to go out and do drugs and party and do some hood rat shit while her husband, hardworking, good man, took care of the boys. And no matter what, Sandra would go away for a while and she'd always come back, right back to Adrian. You're a good dude, Adrian. You probably don't get enough credit in life, but you're a great fucking dude. Because apparently him, and my Aunt Sandra tried to get us out of Child Protective Services. They got my sister out first, and they sent her to live with her father, Gary Lane, who, according to my sister, abused the fuck out of him. Abused the hell out of her. Excuse my language, but I don't know what happened. So I got no choice but to believe my sister. But my sister has a lot of trauma in her life. And when my mother wasn't around and on drugs, my sister helped take care of me. Not a day goes by that I thank her for that. So eventually, she tries to get me to go stay with my father, my aunt. She's talking to Child Protective Services and Mary Graham Hall, trying to get me to stay with my father, but my mother brainwashed us so bad, thinking that my dad was so violent and abusive, that it scared the shit out of me and my sister. And we didn't want to go live with him. So eventually, they gave me back to my mom and her boyfriend. And this dude, D, he was like 6'1", 6'2", maybe like a couple 100 pounds, like 200 pounds, maybe 220, 230, maybe less. But he's a big fucking dude. And he abused us too, physically. Not often, but I remember a time where he picked me up. At the time, I think I was like 6 years old, maybe 7 years old, maybe 8 years old, 7, 8 years old. I remember him picking me off the ground by my throat. And at that time, at that age, I might have been like 3'5". I'm 5'3" right now. I'm fucking short. Thanks, Mom and Dad. But this dude D, my mom's boyfriend, picked me up off the ground by my neck. And anytime he'd piss me off, or anytime I pissed him off, or I felt like he was going to abuse me, I would run down to the corner and I would hide in the dryer for the laundromat that's for the trailer park that we live just outside of. And Child Protective Service gave me back to my mom and her boyfriend. And I walk in and I was happy to see her, because maybe I'm fucked up in the head because of when I got ran over. My skull was open and cracked, and I don't know how much brain particles were taken out of my head or anything like that. If I did or if I didn't lose any brain matter. But they gave me back to my mom, and I just felt really happy to see her. And this was in Escalon still. And I remember being so malnourished that no matter what I tried to eat, because I was a picky eater, because Dee's mom, B, call her B, because that's her first initial, she basically forced us to sit at the table and finish everything on her plate. I used to eat a lot of shit growing up as a kid. I can remember that. But the minute we moved in with her, it was, no, you're going to eat everything. I guess that kind of traumatized me into what I eat now, I guess. And it'd be a lot of the same shit, repetitive. And sometimes I wanted to eat it, and sometimes I didn't. But no matter what, B wouldn't let us leave the table. So, fast forward back from then to Escalon. I basically was so malnourished that no matter what I ate, I threw up. You could see the bones in my body through my skin visibly. My collarbone, shoulder, my abdomen and chest area. You could see a lot of my rib cages, front and back. And they gave me back to my mom. I remember walking in and hugging her and turning around and hugging my aunt and telling her, thank you, I love you. And the minute I turned back to look at my mom and her boyfriend, just like that, my aunt was gone. Maybe my memory is wrong, but there's only 3 people that will know. And my mom's so old right now and kind of got like a foot in the grave that the 3 of us will never know if that's exactly what happened. But I can remember turning back around and my aunt was gone. And I walk in with my stuff and I look around and my mom shuts the door and there's all these boxes around. And I'm like, what's going on? Oh, well, we got to move out of here in a couple weeks because they want to tear the place down. So they wanted to tear down that house because there was an accident at the intersection. And when that accident happened, a car almost went through the house and probably would have killed me because it was a 1-bedroom house. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen, living room, and I slept on the couch. But basically, I get home to my mom and now all of a sudden we have to move. I'm like, oh, well, I can remember asking, well, where are we going to go? Well, where's our new place? And my mom telling me, oh, well, we're just going to have to sleep in the Suburban. And this was 1989, 1990, somewhere. And my mom being poor and a drug addict, and her boyfriend not doing a freaking thing to help out the family, me, my sister, my mom. The vehicle happened to be like a 1970-something Suburban. They called it the meat wagon. My mom says, we're just going to sleep in the meat wagon and, try to make it. And meanwhile, this meat wagon is like a burgundy and rusted color, and the side door would open on the van on the passenger side to get into the back. They took out all the seats so the 3 of us can sleep. I remember going down to this river in Escalon, just off of McHenry. And basically I would go play in the water. I didn't have anywhere to shower. Didn't have any food. I don't even remember what I ate. That's kind of how bad it was. But I do remember my mom did have food stamps. And I don't know if she was getting cash aid or if that was a thing back then. But she would make us, my mom, go into the gas station and grocery stores and buy like a 3 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent candy with the paper food stamps. A lot of y'all that know me know what I'm talking about. Some of the newer people that know me, you ain't got a clue what paper food stamps is. It looked just like money, but it looked like a piece of paper, and they stamped it on, and boom, there's your food stamps. There was no card back then. We take it in, buy something, they give us change, come back out. We would do that probably for 2 or 3 days straight. We'd bring out the change. Here's some more. Go back in. Give us a $5 food stamp. Come back out. They give us $4 in food stamps and 90 cents in change. Well, here, take one of these dollars and go into this store and go back into this store. And we would do a circle in the small city of Escalon. And it was my mom, because my mom's boyfriend didn't want to be a part of it for whatever reason. But it was my mom, me, and my sister. My mom's best friend, Big Bridget. I don't know what the deal is with my mom and Big Bridget. And why they were such best friends. But no matter what, anything that I got or anything that I wanted, or Big Bridget just had something against my mom, even though they were best friends. And Big Bridget had my best friend, Jeremy and Jamie. And they would take us around. Me and my sister, Jeremy and Jamie, would all go into the store, buy a candy with the food stamp, come back out with the change. After all the food stamps were gone and they had nothing but change, they would sit around and tweak out with penny, nickel, dime, and quarter rolls, putting it all in there. Well, me, Jamie, Jeremy, and my sister, Bridget, would go out and play or watch a movie or, whatever. But it just seems like everything that I got, Bridget always got Jeremy. Big Bridget, not my sister Bridget. Big Bridget always got her son Jeremy whatever I got, but better or more of. We always had matchbox cars growing up. And I'd buy a couple like that, and me and Jeremy would play with them. And, oh, that's cool. Where'd you get that? Oh, we just got it from the store. It was a little toy. He wanted it. I got it for him. Not even a week later, we go back over there to play, and, he's got all these cars. Big Bridget was married to a guy named Willie. And Willie was I don't know if you call it paisa or not, but he was Hispanic, speak Spanish fluently, and they lived in this house that was surrounded by orchards out in the country of Escalon. And Willie always seemed cool to me. I didn't see the violent side. I heard things, but never really saw the violent side to it. But apparently he was a really bad dude. Anyhow, back to the story. So Big Bridget, my mom's best friend and my dad's new wife, Tracy, decided, we're going to call CPS, get the kids taken away from her. It happened. My sister never came back until a year, 2, 3 years later. Meanwhile, me and my mom and her boyfriend D are sleeping in the back of the Suburban. Nowhere really to shower except for when we go to this lake in Escalon. Or not lake, this river in Escalon. And I would just get in the water and kind of wash everything off. And by wash everything off, I mean just with water in my hands. There was no soap. There was no washcloths. There was literally nothing. Thanks, Ma. That's going to be a reoccurring quote in these videos. But I went through a lot of trauma growing up. I don't know how long it was, but we stayed in that Suburban for quite some time. And at one point we started, we were stopping by my Aunt Sandra and Uncle Adrian's house in Modesto, California. I believe it was like right off of Carver and not Stanford. Was it Stanford? I don't know. It was by Mr. T's Donuts in Modesto. The intersection right over. No, it wasn't Carver. What road was that? Anyways, it was probably like 8 to 10 blocks west of Davis High School, where I eventually went to high school when I eventually moved with my dad. But we would show up in the morning and we would go over there, and I remember it'd be early, like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and my Aunt Sandra, I think Uncle Adrian was already at work, or he was about to go to work, but my Aunt Sandra would let me take a shower. And that was probably once or twice a week, but we would always stop by there in the morning. My mom and her boyfriend all tweaked out. D loved to fish, so when, living in that Suburban, when they were all geeking out, it'd be out at the river and I'd be sleeping somewhere on the ground in a sleeping bag or a blanket or something, I can't remember, and they'd be out there fishing. And my mom and just not giving a shit, just following Dick. Eventually, my Uncle Adrian and my Aunt Sandra paid to get my mom and him and me and my sister into a house. And that was in Oakdale, California on Birdwell. Back then it wasn't a bad street when we moved in, but not too long after, it became an infamous street in Oakdale. But before that, while sleeping in the Suburban, can't leave this out, there was very little room, and my feet stunk real bad. My feet stunk real bad because I was a dirty kid. Because I didn't have nowhere to fucking shower or nowhere to stay clean. No way, no reason. And I was young. But one night, apparently I toss and turn a lot in my sleep. And I guess I kicked my mom's front teeth out. Sorry, Ma. So we end up moving to this house in... no, not a house. What is it? A 2-story. It's like some apartments in a U-shaped form, and then in the middle there were some more apartments. And we lived there for a bit, and my mom and D would just go out tweaking, and I'd be, I'd have somewhere to sleep, I'd have somewhere to shower. I walked probably 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles to school every morning. And I went to Magnolia Elementary. And I even then, I was a dirty kid and I smelled because my clothes wouldn't get washed. I would be clean, but my clothes wouldn't, be cleaned. Um, I'd wear socks for like weeks on end because I didn't have any. Dirty socks, not the same pair, but all my socks would always be dirty and they just wouldn't wash them. Um, so I was a dirty kid growing up at Magnolia, and I didn't really think nothing of it. I was just always out having fun, going to school, can't wait for recess. I'd show up to school probably about an hour early and I'd go out there and play tetherball. Well, I would hit the tetherball by myself and play around on some of the stuff. And then once kids started coming to school, head over towards the cafeteria, wait 5-10 minutes, it opens up, boom. That cafeteria food fucking saved me every morning because my mom took every penny she got and put it towards either rent or drugs or something for her and her boyfriend D. They didn't give two shits about us. And I said they didn't give two shits about us because my mom only cared for her boyfriend. That was it. She only cared for her boyfriend. If he would have gave a shit about us or cared about us more, she probably would have gave a shit and cared about us more too. But whatever he wanted to do, whatever he wanted to go, whatever he was interested in, that's what was going on. That's, up his ass. This guy D probably cheated on my mom a dozen times, if not more. Probably with younger women, probably with older women, probably with women with a sack of dope or something. It just really sucked. It's a lot of trauma, a lot of shit that I can remember. But eventually we moved out of that duplex or two-story or whatever you want to call it, condo, into a 3-bedroom house that sat behind. It was like literally like 1,500 feet away from where we were living. And there was 2 apartments next to this apartment complex. And they were in the front. And we moved to one of them. And it was just 1 and 2. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. And we moved into one of those. And eventually we moved from those 2, one of those 2, to the house behind it. It was a 3-bedroom house. And that was like a dope house, basically. All the tweakers around Oakdale would go over there and basically that's where they would do their drugs. People would be in and out of our house, left and right. I'm surprised no one fucking molested us there. But eventually, I was molested by D's youngest brother, M. Now fuck that, we're going to call him out. Michael Newt. Michael Newt molested me for months on end. And anytime my mom's like, oh, we're going over to your grandma's house, D's mom. We're going over to your grandma's house, I would cry. I said, I don't want to go, I'll stay here. I don't want to go, I'll stay here. Eventually, we ended up having to move in there, where the sexual abuse continued. And I held that in. And I didn't tell anybody what happened until 15, 16 years later, when I went out to stay with my mom and a different boyfriend. I finally told them and told my sister. And then my sister opened up about a lot of shit, and we just unloaded on each other with our trauma and shit that happened. It was not good. Sometimes, we would go to our grandma's house, Dee's mom's house, for a couple hours. Sometimes we'd end up staying the night, but eventually we moved in, and the sexual abuse continued. And they would leave. Well, Michael's going to watch you, and I just knew what was going to happen. And the TV would be on, and I was, just listening to whatever was playing in the background. And I think it was in California back then, elementary ended at 5th grade. It was literally like the last day of school in 5th grade. No, like the last week. And I brought a BB gun to school because these high school gangbangers would fuck with me and my Hispanic friends because they were norteños, and we lived on Birdwell. And Birdwell in Oakdale was where all the Crips and tweakers hung out. And these norteños, they had a good family. A good dad, a good mom. I was friends with their brother Alfonso, I think. And they lived like literally fucking 2 blocks away. And Alfonso had older brothers. And their older brothers had friends. And when we would leave school, they would pick on me and Enrique and Luis and somebody else. And these high schoolers, they were just picking on us. And one day Enrique got tired of it. And Enrique started fighting with them. And Alfonso, just stood there watching. And I was scared because these dudes were big as fuck. And they were probably 10 years older now. Yeah, probably 8, 9, 10 years older. And they're over there kicking Enrique's ass, but he's Hispanic and he grew up in a house of violence, kind of, sort of. So he could take a punch. But I was scared. So, we pulled him out of there and we all took off. The very next day, the next week, I brought a BB gun to school. And they tried starting some shit because every time we're walking home, these vatos were fucking walking towards us, going the opposite way. And they tried talking some shit again, and I pulled the BB gun out. The very next day, I got pulled into the principal's office, and they said, "We're going to expel you," and da-da-da-da-da. "Where's the gun?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And cops came and all that shit, and they found the BB gun. And, well, we're not going to expel you because it's the last few days of class, so we're just going to graduate you and send you to Oakdale Junior High, which was over by the Kmart. And that's over by the rodeo grounds out there in Oakdale. Yeah, Oakdale was a shitty fucking time for me. But that's where, living on Birdwell, I met. At that time, we were just friends with some of these people. There was Mike Young and his brother Jason. They had different dads. I don't remember Jason's last name. And then his mom, Mike and Jason's mom, pretty sure she was pretty tweaked out as well. And she lived in a different pair of apartments that were across from where we lived. And let's see, who were the friends? Logan Lynch, Alonzo. Alonzo was a Hispanic, and he hung out with Mike and Jason, and they were all wearing blue, and part of their little Crip gang, I guess. And no matter all the blue that they wear, I still always wore my red 49ers jacket, red and gold, or the black and red Chicago Bulls jacket. I hung out with the Crips, but I never was big on banging Crip. But Alonzo, he hung out with the Crips, but he was always, Su 13, Sureño. And, you know, so Alonzo was my friend. Mike Young was my friend. Jason was my friend. Brian Zerbos tried to beat me up the first time I seen him, and Jason stopped him. I was out walking by myself on the way home from school, and Brian Zerbos was just a fucking prick. And then one of my other friends, who was probably one of my really good friends, and I liked hanging out with him, but I don't think he liked hanging out with me, was Chris Sourwine. Chris Sourwine, he lived in a good house in a good area, and I don't know if his mom and dad, but, you know, they took decent care of him, and he hung out once in a while with us, but he didn't like hanging out with the gangbanging shit. So we would just hang out and smoke weed and go separate ways. And Oakdale back then was a relatively small town. So, you know, you do something pretty fucked up, or you do something that everyone's going to know. Everyone's going to know. But one night, well, not one night, over a period of time, over a few years of time, Birdwell considerably got worse. And we'd have people showing up over there left and right. My Aunt Sandra came over a couple times and started fucking with some of the dudes, like Brad Fletcher. And there was other people, Dean, and some dude, my sister's first boyfriend that I can remember, white dude, always tried to act black and had big old lips. And I think his name was Theophil, but he wanted to be called Joe. And then there was Dean Smith. And Birdwell was not a good place to go, because you fuck around over there, and you're gonna get your ass whooped. You're gonna get your car bashed in, and it happened numerous times. So a lot of people didn't go down there, especially if they were banging north there, or if they were a blood. You didn't go down Birdwell. The cops didn't even like going down there. They went down there when they had to. They didn't have patrol down Birdwell like they do in all the neighborhoods they got now that are bad. But one night, you know, after living there for years, and a lot of people would always come around and hang. I think it was me, and I forgot. I don't know. It was either Jason or Dean. I pulled out an ice pick that I think I got it from my mom. Oh no. And they're like, oh yeah, let me see that. And Dean's like, look at this. Oh, look how smooth it goes in and out. It goes in and out of that tire real good. So me, Michael, Alonzo. I don't think Jason went. But it was me, Alonzo, Dean, and somebody else who didn't get caught with us. But we went around Oakdale and we popped. We vandalized 43 cars, leading a trail. This is how stupid we were. We left a trail of vehicles vandalized by us by popping their tires from where we lived on Birdwell, down the street, past the high school, across the street from the high school, in an alleyway, through the alleyway over towards the hospital, and that's where our vandalism of popping tires. We didn't just pop one tire on one car. Sometimes we popped two on a lot of them. Sometimes we popped all four. The very next morning, everyone on that street that was going to work was out changing their tires, or, you know, doing something to try to, everyone was out there. I was on my way to school, and a shit ton of people were pissed off because their tires are flat and they couldn't go to work. I don't know if it was the next night or the following night, but eventually Mike and Jason's mom, the police went over there and caught them up, And Mike and Jason's mom said, well, if you're going to take my kids, you might as well take Philip from across the street because he was with them last night too. Well, apparently they already had Dean. They already had Jason. They already had Michael. They had Alonzo. Long story short, I pled no contest like the rest of them. Went in juvenile hall for like a day or two. Logan. I think Logan got into it as Logan Lynch. He got arrested with this too. Logan was a really cool dude. Logan protected me a lot. I don't know if because he liked my sister or he was wanting to smash my sister or what. But Logan was really cool. Logan fought for me. But I got arrested, put in juvenile hall, stayed there for a couple days. My dad came to see me and, talked to me and everything will be all right. You'll be okay. Don't worry about it. Nothing. We're trying to get this taken care of. And, yeah, that was crazy. Spent 2 days, pled no contest, got out, was on probation at the age of like 12, was I 12, 13? Until the age of 18. And then not too long after they let me out of juvenile hall, and I met with my first probation officer, Rex Chapman, who was a cocksucker. That dude was a bitch. He took his job so fucking serious. But about like 4 to 6 months, maybe 8 months later, that's when I left my mom. I left a lot of information out, but I did leave my mom to go stay with my dad because I got tired of living like a bum. I got tired of fucking asking for food from neighbors, going over to a friend's house and just munching the fuck out. I looked really bad when I was young. I mean, I was told I was cute by a lot of females and young girls and stuff when I was at that age. But I was just not, like, dirty clothes, not looking good at all. My mom, after Dwayne left her, after Dee left her, I think she started dating this other dude named Dean. Or Tim. Tim kind of reminded me of Jeffrey Dahmer. The way Jeffrey Dahmer looks in the movies and in real life. That's the kind of Jeffrey Dahmer. Not the young Jeffrey Dahmer, the older one. Tim looked just like that dude, but apparently Tim was really smart. Tim was really cool. He was into computers and shit like that, but he had a problem with drugs and alcohol as well. I think his name was Tim Haas. He taught me when I was young how to make a really good pancake and how to make it come out really good. And then there was Mad Dog. Like, Tim was a good dude, and he could have changed my mom, and but my mom didn't want a good dude. My mom wanted the fuck-ups. She wanted the felons. Hence Dean. Hence Mad Dog. Who else knows what? But then eventually she met a dude named Alan Nayukaitis, and he was out of prison as well. But I left to my dad's, and I left all that shit behind. And my dad threw away a lot of my stuff that I brought with me because it was all dirty. And my dad taught me how to live a better life somewhat. Take care of yourself, be clean. If you're not outside, you don't need to be in your shoes. You can take them off. Yes, my feet stunk even in my new shoes because my feet were just bad. So eventually, I got my feet cleaned up and they stopped stinking so much. And that's when I was introduced to video games. Nintendo. The original Nintendo. The TurboGrafx 16, Sega Genesis, For the first time in my life, I could go into the refrigerator and grab a Pepsi. My dad's a Pepsi head. And now I don't really care for it. I like Coke or Dr. Pepper. Or my favorite is vanilla Coke. But I was living with my dad and his new wife. And their new daughter, my half-sister, who is like a year old. And I started living with my dad, and I think I don't remember causing problems between him and his wife, but I know it was kind of rocky by the time I got there. Tracy and JoJo, she was really cool to me growing up. She was just, I seen her as a really cool person. Tracy was really beautiful. She's like 5'10", 5'11", maybe like 150, 160 pounds. Tall, skinny, big rack, like white girls, flat ass back then. But, you know, she came from a decent family. I would say at that time they were relatively rich, I think. And what the fuck she was doing with my dad, I don't know. But apparently my dad put hands on her and they divorced. But she did a lot of stuff for me. She took real good care of me. She was really nice. I didn't get to see a lot of her because when they first got together and got married, I didn't know about it. I lived like 30 minutes, 45 minutes away. I lived in Oakdale. My dad lived in Modesto. And my dad went and found a new chick. And my dad says that I never wanted to go over and visit him. So he stopped coming over. That happened. I didn't see my dad for like a year and a half, 2 years. And at that time, I was living in Oakdale in that 3-bedroom house where we had electricity for a couple months. And then we went without electricity and gas for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. In that time, my dad stopped coming over. Normally, he would come over and pick me up on the weekend, and we would do clothes. Or if he couldn't, if he had other shit going on, he would just come over, take us out to eat, take us to do our clothes, and drop us back off at my mom's. And that wasn't an every week thing. That was just if he had time. But apparently my dad said that me and my sister, no, not my sister, but me, I didn't want to go over there, and I didn't want to stay with him on the weekends. So he stopped coming over. I didn't think nothing of it. But as an adult, like, that's my father giving up on trying to have a relationship with me. He never talked to me or asked me why I didn't want to go. But it was because I was scared. Because I was basically fucking brainwashed and told anytime my dad was mentioned that my dad was abusive, or my dad broke her nose, or he broke every bone in her right body except her right leg. And I'm like, you know, as an adult, you know how much pain you would be in if every bone in your body had been broken once? You'd be in pain for the rest of your life. You probably wouldn't be able to walk or stand up straight. Like, that's what my mom told me and my sister. Brainwashed us into thinking that. And I missed out on a good portion of life with my dad. Because my dad just gave up on trying to have a relationship with me for a year, 2 years, whatever it was. And I don't know if he ever really asked the question of why I didn't want to come over. He would come over and see me, I think, and then, hey, you want to come over? No, I don't want to go. I'm okay. Or what? I don't think my dad ever sat down and asked me, like, hey, why don't you want to come over? What's the problem? I come over here every weekend to try to, take you and stay with me and be a father to you and love you and show you that I care. I don't know if he ever had that conversation. I don't know. But I think I was 13 years old. And I finally moved over to my dad's house. And it was life-changing. I was taught how to fucking live, not how to survive. I was taught how to live, not survive. My dad got me clean clothes, made sure my clothes were cleaned every weekend. Because my dad worked hard. My dad, did construction. And he was living like a man should. Work, come home, take care of your family, cook dinner, clean up, go to sleep, wake up, shower, and it was life-changing, though, because I could actually go in there and have a bowl of cereal and go to the fridge and there's milk. Or I look in the fridge and there's lunch meat on sandwich. But I didn't like lunch meat, but having that there made me, happy, because normally I looked in my fridge at my mom's house and all there was, condiments and a can of sardines and a thing of Brunnschwager. Yeah, that's an actual thing. It's called Brunnschwager. My mom would take a wheat thin cracker, and she would take some of the Brunnschwager out of the packaging, put it in a bowl. Then she would take a wheat thin, scoop a little of the Brunnschwager out, and eat it. And I used to think that was good. But that's all that was ever really in the refrigerator. There wasn't even a jug to hold water. We would have to get water out of the sink, water out of the hose. But eventually we didn't have any fucking utilities, so we couldn't even shit or piss. So seeing all that stuff in my dad's refrigerator, and eggs and milk, and it's food in there, not just condiments, things started getting better. And I'm glad. I wish my dad would have took me away from my mom earlier in my life. Because maybe life would be different for me now. Maybe it'd be worse. I don't know. I think that's it for right now, but day 2 is tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Y'all have a good night. It's me from the front seat.